Good evening and welcome to Beaches Watch July Community Meeting. We're happy you could be here, and I guess given the weather conditions, we're glad that it's virtual, so no one had to travel in this condition. Tonight, we're going to hear from our police chiefs and commander from Neptune Beach on giving us an update on what's happening at the beaches as far as security, safety, and the 4th of July update. We'll be hearing from Commander Michael Key from Neptune Beach, Chief Vic Gualillo from Atlantic Beach, and Chief Jean Paul Smith from Jacksonville Beach. Before we get started, we just want to give you some announcements. As always, our meetings are being recorded, so if your friends or neighbors are unable to attend the meeting live tonight, they can always tune in to our Beaches Watch meeting videos on our YouTube channel. We are always renewing or running our membership drive, so you can renew or join for 2021. It's $15 for individual, $20 for family, and $5 for students. This is a yearly membership from January through December, and you can renew your membership or make a donation on our Beaches Watch website at beacheswatch.com. Jacksonville Beach, they're hosting their budget workshops. On the screen, you can see there are several dates of workshops and various times, so please check our website. They will be listed there. We ask that, as Jacksonville Beach citizens, you really be involved in this budget process so you know where your tax dollars are being spent and how they're being spent. Atlantic Beach, they're also running their budget workshops. They will host 2 workshops. One will be on Thursday, July 22nd at 6 p.m. in the in the Atlantic Beach City Commission chambers. And then Thursday, August 19 at 6 p.m. also in the chambers. Atlantic Beach will be hosting their town hall, which will be Tuesday, July 17 at 10 a.m. They will be talking about their resiliency adaptation plan and open topics for citizens to bring up any issues that they may have. This will also be located in the commission chambers. So, good news. Jacksonville Beach has been recognized by the Florida League of Cities for Clean, Dark, Flat campaign. This is regarding their efforts to work with about the sea turtle nesting and making sure lights out are for the beaches so that the sea turtles, when they start hatching, they can find their way into the ocean as opposed to other places where they will have very little chance of surviving. So congratulations, Jacksonville Beach, on such a great job. Neptune Beach was also recognized by the APA Florida for their vision planning and responsive innovative policies. So congratulations to our Jacksonville Beach and Neptune Beach for really working hard in doing the right thing and really enhancing the quality of life for our community. Unfortunately, some bad news through the legislative session. Governor DeSantis signed the home-based business bill, HB 403. If you're not familiar with that, we sent out a campaign to our members and to the community, asking Governor DeSantis to veto this home-based business bill because it actually took the ability for local government to regulate what kind of businesses could be run out of homes. And unfortunately, because they're not going to always be compatible with our residential communities. So we'll see what happens there. So our upcoming meeting in August, which is Wednesday, August the 4th. This is a topic that has been somewhat controversial, or a lot of very controversial, but it's about gun policy and its effect on our communities. We now have confirmed Robert J. Spitzer, author of The Politics of Gun Control, to bring his perspective on this issue, as well as Jean Francis, and she is head of Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America. We've also invited Representative Cord Bird to serve as a panelist as well. Representative Bird has been very outspoken as far as gun rights. And so we really want to bring a well-rounded discussion and perspective regarding this important issue. Let's see. Are there any other announcements? I don't think so. So we will go ahead and begin with our meeting tonight. So starting us off will be Commander Michael Key from Neptune Beach, followed by Chief Vic Gualillo of City of Atlantic Beach. And then rounding out the three will be Chief Jean Paul Smith from Jacks Beach. So thank you, gentlemen, for being here. We look forward to hearing your presentation.
Good evening. Thank you for that. Again, my name is Michael Key. I'm going to be reading off some notes to my left, so I'm not paying attention to the screen here. I just wanted to preface that. Again, I'm a commander with the Neptune Beach Police Department. I oversee, well, first I'm our administrative commander. I oversee the services division, which encompasses records, dispatch, and crossing guards, our investigative division, and ocean rescue. I also serve as our agency's public information officer and our social media manager. So if you like or maybe even dislike our content, I'm the guy to blame for that. I'd first like to say it's always an honor to represent the men and women of the Neptune Beach Police Department, Chief Pike, and the city of Neptune Beach as a whole. I honestly believe I work with the most talented, dedicated, and professional team anyone could have. We were given some questions, so I'm just going to roll through those and just try to address each one of them as best as I can on behalf of our agency. Getting started, I'll go ahead and cover the most recent successes and challenges that we faced over the summer. And I think like a lot of us, we too were glad that we are now in 2021 and that we are emerging from 2020 and all those challenges that brought. For this year and as in years past, we assign an extra officer to beach patrol. Their responsibilities are to focus efforts east of 3rd every Saturday and Sunday beginning April 1st until July, at least the end of July. Typical violations, they're looking for those associated with quality of life issues, drinking the public, animal control violations, and traffic enforcement efforts, to name a few. The program's been extremely successful and has benefited to curbing those types of behaviors that, if left unenforced, they could grow into larger ones. The Neptune Beach Ocean Rescue Team has been out in full force this summer as well, with many success stories of rendering aid. Captain Rich Banks has done an amazing job and has had challenges this year with hiring, however. With that being said, we have had adequate coverage for the summer. However, ocean rescue guards are typically of a younger demographic, and competing jobs are always a challenge to maintaining personnel. We're actively analyzing that, and we're trying to do our best to attract the most qualified folks. As you know, we had a rainy July 4th, which we believe it kept the crowds down to a minimum. That being said, we experienced a large crowd, as usual, with minimum issues. Regarding statistics, I have some interesting and enjoyable ones, as much as statistics can be interesting to share with you. And I'm going to switch over to some notes here. First, I'd like to share some notes from some statistics from Colin Moore with the city of Neptune Beach. He was able to deploy a bicycle counter that goes on the ground along First Street, and got some pretty interesting stats to share with that. Over the holiday weekend, that's January 1st through the 5th, Neptune Beach saw 9,738 bicyclists on First Street at that counter, which is a pretty massive number if you think about the relative size of Neptune Beach, almost 10,000 bicyclists. On July 4th, Neptune Beach saw nearly 5,970. And when you compare that to other bike counter data out there, it's pretty shocking how large our bicycle traffic is. He noted New York City had a counter that only counted 4,400 roughly. Long Beach, California had a counter that 4,200. Jacksonville's North Bank had a counter that had a 211. So again, ours was 5,970 just for that one day. Pretty amazing numbers there to show you how much of a crowd we do actually have on First Street. Next, I'd like to cover a few statistics from July 3rd through the 5th regarding the enforcement efforts. Give me just a second to go to that page. Just run through these really quick because I know statistics can be sometimes dry, but they do give a good snapshot of what actually occurred during that holiday weekend. We had 26 vehicle stops, of which 9 had uniform traffic citations issued. There were 45 parking citations, 11 noise complaints, 13 complaints of fireworks, 10 complaints of animals, 5 found property items, 13 suspicious persons, 8 fights or disputes, 7 intoxicated subjects, 1 fire, 18 property checks. 2 people were issued notice to appears, and we had a total of 3 arrests for the holiday. Again, that was July 3rd through the 5th. I'd like to add that these statistics are typical for us, though, in years past, and we attribute those low numbers into the way that we deal with that large crowd that we have. It's the kind of the hallmark, the principal approach that pretty much all the beaches do, and that's education first, warning second, and then as the last resort, we take action. Moving on the second part, over the past several years, Neptune Beach has faced significant challenges from COVID to openings within our police personnel ranks going into the pandemic, to half of our police officers in patrol being out due to the COVID quarantine, to hurricane season, to the planning of the RNC, and the list kind of goes on and on. With that being said, I'd really like to say through it all, our city council and our city manager, Stefan Wynn, has had our backs and helped us accomplish our objectives. We've always been fluid and adaptive to change with the times as a small city, and I believe we're a great example of how our American form of government is the best. It isn't always perfect, but dealing with the things on a local level where you can actually reach someone on the phone when you call is it's hard to argue against of how great it is. That being said, a few of our top priorities for the department moving forward have been implementation of a new CAD system. CAD stands for Computer Aided Dispatch, and I'll just really paint it as a really simple picture for you. When our officers get dispatched a call, that call is sent on their computer with additional details, and we're joining in with Jacksonville as well as other area agencies to join in with their multi-jurisdictional CAD system where we all share that same information. More updates are our records management system. We've had implementation of all new radios, new servers are on the horizon. We've implemented new laptops. So a lot of IT upgrades and enhancements. Another priority is public safety education. The state FDOT, we've really reached out and been asking them to help us with Town Center as traffic enters eastbound on Atlantic Boulevard. As many of you already know, it has been an issue in the past, and we're trying to do our best by working with FDOT to do multiple different things that can calm that traffic and slow that speed down. It's dangerous, obviously, at times, and impaired drivers traveling through that intersection have resulted in crashes. Other efforts are golf cart safety initiatives. We believe it's not going to be if, it's going to be a matter of when there's going to be a unfortunate automobile crash between golf cart and whatever, a golf cart to golf cart or golf cart to fix objects. So we're really trying to stress golf cart safety for those that have been have become very popular as of recent. We've implemented 2 signboards, and we're in the process of lowering the speed limit on Midway and Strand, as well as, again, back to that first subject, trying to get the speed limit in the Town Center area as well. That's a state road, for those that are wondering. So we have to go through FDOT to implement that. Other things, motorized scooters, motorized vehicles, et cetera, they're all, have had their interesting challenges and problems associated with them. And we are trying to combat that with messaging and education and obviously enforcement at the end. Some other quick things: new crosswalks at Florida and 4th and Seagate are also some of our public safety priority education parts. Moving on, I know I'm kind of timed here, so I'm trying to go as fast as I can. Regarding state and national issues that our department has had to face in the past year, and I'm not going to really spend much time on that because I can really simply sum it up in a few short statements. First and foremost, we're an accredited police agency with very strict policies and procedures that are in place that are resilient, they're time tested, and they're in line with the best practices throughout the nation. We conduct annual audits and inspections and are always ensuring that our policies are up to date with current times. And quite frankly, Neptune Beach hasn't had to deal with many of the national changes, policy changes, because we're already in line with them already. That being said, we did have to bring in extra personnel during the 3 marches to ensure not only the safety of our residents, but those marching last year, and that was obviously personnel intensive. Moving on to what citizens can do for us. Public outreach has always been one of our staples. It's always been one of the things we do best. Community-oriented policing is a fancy term for something that I feel the beaches in general, but definitely Neptune Beach has really done the best, and that's one of that we pride ourselves in. During COVID, that was obviously very difficult, and we had to suspend the majority of those. However, we're now emerging from that, and we're looking forward to getting those back into play here. One of the new things that we're looking at planning, and you'll start seeing that on our social media vehicles as well as city websites and flyers and things, is a back to school splash, where we're trying to set up a kind of like a water park, if you will, for the kids before they go back to school. We're looking to get the movies with the mayor and the Jarba Park started back, Chiefs walks, Christmas and Easter in the park is obviously on the horizon, Halloween parades, cookies with a cop, food drives. We had 2 of those with Beaches Chapel, thanks to Farm Share and Community First Credit Union. I won't steal the show, but 90th year anniversary for the city of Neptune Beach. So I know the city is working diligently on that. One of the things that the police department's done, if you'll notice, some of our officers are wearing stars. And in 90 years ago, we were town marshals that wore 7-pointed stars. So as a throwback to those town marshal days, where all of our officers were wearing 90th anniversary stars, which we thought was really a neat thing, and it's been received really well. One of the other things is school safety liaison officer program at Fletcher High School, Neptune Beach Elementary, and Beaches Chapel K through 12. That's been a really big success there of having our officers involved and inside those schools, interacting with our most important citizens. What can we do to support? What can citizens do? It was another question that was posed. What can citizens do to support your department? And I have to say, our citizens already do support our agency, and they support our agency tenfold. I can't ask them for more support since they already give us so much. During the pandemic, I can't think of a week that we went by that we didn't have lunch provided for us, and we have an amazingly supportive community. We did receive 3 substantial donations from the community that helped us augment several projects and equipment that we needed refreshing. And again, we just can't express how much we are appreciative of that. So with that, if there's anything that we could ask of our residents, and that would just be, if you see something, please say something. We always encourage our citizens to pick up the phone and call us, whether that be 911 during an emergency or a non-emergency number. We always encourage, if you see something that's out of place, please call us. Never hesitate to call your police department. This is Neptune Beach's police department. It's we're here for you, the citizen of Neptune Beach. So never feel like you're bothering or overburdening. We're here to serve you. Property crimes, for instance, they can be deterred and or solved a lot by just simply having an engaged citizen. That's one of the things that we face a lot, obviously, at the beach, is property crimes, and those something. If you see something out of line, please just give us a call. And I'm not sure where I am with time, but I'm going to close here. And in closing, I'd just like to express that on behalf of Chief Pike and everyone at the Neptune Beach Police Department, how thankful we are to work and serve a public who is supportive who's understanding and helpful. We work really, really hard to maintain a relationship of trust and confidence with our citizens, and we enjoy those the fruits of that labor. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Commander Key, and I love the Marshall. So what's it, Marshall Key? That sounds great.
There you go.
Congratulations on that. I think that's awesome. It's a great PR too. So, and it sounds very friendly, which we know Neptune Beach, all of our beaches communities are.
Sure.
So next up, we have Chief Vic Gualillo from City of Atlantic Beach. Chief, it's all yours.
Well, good evening, everybody. My name is Vic Gualillo. I'm the Chief of Police for Atlantic Beach. Just a quick little bio for me in case you haven't been around. I'm a 30-year veteran, 3 months and 9 days, not that anybody's counting, of the Atlantic Beach Police Department. It's been my pleasure to work here for that long. So it's my great pleasure now to be the chief. So I'll jump right into the questions. Challenges we faced this summer, Memorial Day, Orange Crush, and 4th of July were this year at least 3 of our big events. I think the best thing that I can say about that is the weather helped us out a lot to keep some of those crowds down. Hate to put a damper on anybody's weekend, but it's nice to not see quite as much traffic on some of those holidays as we normally do. But each year we're prepared with extra staffing. We put extra folks on the day shift and night shift to try and help manage the traffic and the visitors to the beach and our residents also, and provide a safe environment for them. So we prepared for each of those holidays with plenty of extra manpower. Obviously, Orange Crush was a big question mark for us in Duval County this year, since it was the first year of that event. The best thing I can say about that is that the 4 municipal police departments in Duval County came together along with other state and federal partners, and JFRD, our public works departments, our elected officials, and our community, to ensure that there was a safe event, to inform everybody of what to expect, and to let everybody know that their public safety and their comfort was being provided for by each of our municipalities. And it was a very, very good exercise for all of us to work together so closely. So if nothing else, we got a chance to once again exercise our incident command structures, and to bring all of those agencies together and to work together to renew some relationships that we hadn't exercised in the past, and meet some new people who were in new positions. So a very positive thing overall. We hope that it will be a same story next year if Orange Crush comes back to the beaches. And we're looking forward to working with the promoters and, of course, our officials at all 3 beaches to pull off a great event again. Top priorities for the agency. Sorry, I'm reading off some notes here. Top priorities for the agency as we move forward. I think the biggest concern we have currently for Atlantic Beach is hiring and retention. We're seeing that trend certainly within Duval County, and we're hearing about it throughout the state and nationally, that it is becoming harder and harder to attract quality applicants to the police profession. And I'm sure a lot of that has to do with current events that are out there in the world, in our society and in the U.S. So we're working very hard to communicate to those individuals who were thinking about a career in law enforcement. This is still a good idea. It's a great career to get into. The pay is competitive, the benefits are great, and despite some of the things that have gone on in recent times, it's not a place that you need to be concerned about having a good long career and a professional career. Along with that, we want to make sure that we're addressing community concerns as another priority. Our community's concerns about their public safety, about how they expect us as their police department to interact with them, are always important to us. So we want to make sure that we are always aware of the concerns in our community, that we address those. Again, if you ever want to get in touch with me or any one of my members, my staff, our email addresses are on our web pages. So please reach out to us. We want to be responsive and available to you, or look up the phone number for the police department and reach out to one of us. We'll be happy to talk to you on the phone also. So the things that are on your mind are a concern to us, and we want to hear about them. And I think the third thing I want to talk about is when I relate to my officers, the things that are important or should be important to them is never forget where you came from. Never forget where you came from before you were a law enforcement officer. Never forget where this agency came from. Our history is important to us. And if we stay focused on the current mission of today, which is to protect and serve the public, I think we can't go wrong. And again, we always need to consider looking to the future. So there are opportunities in the future for us to improve and get better, whether that is growth through technology, like Commander Key mentioned, or personally through growth and relationships with our community. If we remember those three things, I think as a police agency, we're going to be doing very well. Impacts of state and national issues. I think all of us in law enforcement, and certainly at the beaches here, have felt the concern of events that have happened across the U.S. Police in general, police profession has been in the limelight for way too many months, in my opinion, in this past year. Police use of force was at the top of that, unfortunately, as it is many times. It's a hot topic, and it makes the news. Unfortunately, if you look at this, or fortunately, if you look at the statistics, police use of force as part of their job is a very small percentage of what we do. An even smaller percentage of those use of force incidents actually result in the injury of someone we're taking to arrest, and an even smaller number of those, almost less than 1%, are results of improper use of force from police officers. So statistically, you need to look at what the data says. We certainly hear emotionally what the media is carrying, what the community is concerned about, but we have to look at a larger picture. So that sort of leads into also police and community relations. We recognize that even though those concerns may not match what we see in the data going on in our profession, we need to address those community concerns. We heard that loud and clear at our commission meetings, our commissioners who are voicing concerns from their constituents, and we responded to that. We talked about our policies that were in place that did address all the things that were brought up about duty to report, duty to intervene, not using chokeholds. Those are already in our policies. We heard the public's concern. We heard the concern from our elected officials, and we changed the wording in some of our policies. My opinion is that we already covered those issues, but if they wanted it voiced more clearly or more strongly with specific language, I saw no reason not to do that, because we were already doing those things in our training and covered those in our policy. But we did listen to our community concerns about those things. We modified those without reservation. And we also saw police reform as a major topic that came up. So the city embarked on communication and talks with our communities, asking them what their concerns were. I think the city of Atlantic Beach did a great job in opening up those lines of communication. And I think we did a good job explaining what the police department does to ensure that we are responsive and responsible to our community members, providing a fair and equitable police service to everyone. So police reform was another major topic on a national scale that came down to us. And I'm sure the other agencies out there heard the same things in their communities, but we always had the caveat, but we know it's not our police department. We don't have a problem with our police department doing these things wrong. We just want to make sure that they can't happen here. And I think that's part of the dialogue, to reassure the public that we were doing the right things. We continue to do the right things to train our officers and provide them with a professional law enforcement that they expect. So I don't think there's anything wrong with having those discussions. I think as long as those discussions are tempered with good dialogue and data, communicating what actually is or is not happening within your communities, I think it goes in the right direction. There's nothing wrong with having those conversations. And what can citizens do to support our department? Well, kind of going along with what we spoke about a moment ago, try and inform yourself of both sides of an issue. We are oftentimes motivated by emotion, and the first information and first things that come out in the media or even on social media can be very emotionally charged, can be sometimes incorrect. There are fragments of the truth in there, but a lot of time there's some guesswork that goes on to fill in the blanks. So inform yourself on both sides of an issue, whether that's a use of force issue or just a why'd the police write this person a ticket issue. Consider both sides of the coin. The police officers don't typically come to a meeting with a citizen for some reason just because they decided to go pick on somebody. If we're there, it's because somebody called or something happened. And there's a question of what precipitated that event. I think we miss asking many times. How did we get there to begin with before there was police interaction with a citizen or a group that was questioned? So the police were there for a reason. Consider why the police were called or needed to be there in the first place. So inform yourselves of all the information before you go making decisions about who is right and who is wrong. Also, you can help us by remembering that the men and women of the police departments at the beaches are human beings. We're imperfect, we're courageous, we're compassionate people, just like your friends, your neighbors. We're human beings that have lives and families like everyone else, and the stresses that go along with those things in addition to our job. So just remember that we're human beings also, and we like to be treated like that. Just talk to us like your neighbor, and that's probably the best way to start a great dialogue with us. If there's anything that you can do to support us better, I'd ask that you consider to participate in one of our citizen police academies at one of the beach agencies. That is a great way to spend some time with the men and women of law enforcement in your community and get to know what they do day in and day out, get to know what their concerns are, and start that relationship with them to understand who they are before they ever show up in your neighborhood on a police call. A lot of times we don't have time to talk and be congenial. We need to get there and take care of business. But it's a good chance at those citizen police academies for 8 to 10 weeks to get to know each one of those officers. Is one night a week, and understand where we have our challenges in doing our job too. So it's nice to see the other side of the coin. So without taking up too much of my time, I guess, Maria, if you'd like to, you can open up the floor for questions. A little bit of time I have left.
Thank you, Chief. What we'll do is we will hear from Chief Smith of Jacksonville Beach, and then we will open it up to all three of you with any questions from the audience. And thank you for that prompt, because I do want to remind our audience that please submit any questions or comments you may have in the chat box, and we will be sure to cover those at the end of the presentations. Congratulations, Vic, on your 30 years plus with our police department as well. Chief Smith, okay, save the best for last.
I don't know about that, but thank you. The other two were pretty darn good.
Well, we're all in good company here, so the floor is yours.
Thank you. I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in, and thank you for the invite. Like my two predecessors said, I can't tell you how happy I am about 3 cities, 1 community, the beaches. That goes from everything we do, from all the protests last year, all the way up through July 4th weekend this year. I've probably seen more from the Neptune and Atlantic Beach Police Departments in the past 2 years than I've seen any other agency in the past 25. I guess that's a good thing. It's mostly the fault of Jacksonville Beach, that why we're seeing each other. And I know the other two are getting a chuckle out of that. First 3 things, first 3 holidays, Memorial Weekend. I'm happy to report we had no critical incidents. We only had about 32, 34 arrests, which is very low for us for that weekend. As y'all are familiar, in 2012, 2013, we had a couple critical incidents, a couple big fights, a couple shootings. So we called what we started what I call the surge years, where we just literally killed ourselves to put overtime and extra officers out there on the street. Happy to report we had a command post for 3 days. We barely used it. I think it's even gotten to a point on Memorial Day next year where we're not going to run a command post, just some extra personnel. I think we've rounded the corner on Memorial Weekend. Fall straight into Orange Crush. Just to remind everybody, in five weeks, we had 3 major events, and my staff, as long I'm sure with the other 2 staffs of the other 2 departments, are exhausted. Orange Crush was successful. We only had 17 arrests, which is unheard of for even a regular weekend in June or March or any other month of the year, even during the winter. 17 arrests for us in 3 days is absolutely low. Successful event, and I'll circle back around to Orange Crush after I cover July 4th. The weather certainly helped with July 4th. We also think that the 6 other fireworks sites around the county assisted us along with the weather. We did have a decent sized crowd, but probably the smallest crowd I've seen other than COVID, July 4th, with no critical incidents. So really, you know, we've had some major violent incidents on July 4th in years past. And I think we've also rounded the corner on that too. And I'll talk about some of those things also in my next 2 points of the questions. Orange Crush, I've heard a couple things, and I'll be very honest, like I always am. I heard from our citizens of the beaches, very supportive from all 3 beaches communities. I didn't really hear any negative comments, but I did hear some outside noise, which I'd like to address. One was over preparation because of racial overtones. Could be furthest from the truth. We take our planning process, we do it the same way every time. And we based our planning process on Orange Crush on a bunch of different factors. One was the past 10 years of the very problematic event up in Tybee Island, Georgia, also known as Orange Crush. After I found out about it, the next Monday, I was on the phone with the chief up there. We talked to businesses, we talked to residents, and we also talked to detectives, intel specialists. We monitored news reports. We monitored social media, open source info on YouTube, and even some of the other Snapchat video of some of the chaos and mayhem. And then we also took some of the promoters' own words, 20,000 people, events all over the county. So we put that into the pot. We also put in that 6 to 8 weeks before that, there was major disturbances in spring break, and all the beaches around this country, most notably Miami Beach and Fort Lauderdale. Miami Beach, one weekend they had 200 arrests and mass disturbances. So we put that into the pot. Then we put into the pot of the organizer was very disorganized, and the sheriff and my mayor said haphazard. I'd say that's they were being nice. That's a vast understatement. Very disorganized. We try to communicate over the course of a couple months. Communication happened a little, then it fell off, and we cannot get any specifics on time, dates, venues, locations. So we were then forced to enforce or defend 3 days countywide, 24 hours a day, because we had no specific info at all. Very little intelligence information or information from the promoter. So you put that into the pot. Then we figured there's a couple high profile trials ending. One was the FBI looking into the Breonna Taylor case in Louisville, and the Derek Chauvin trial in Minnesota was scheduled to go on or be ending at that time. So we put that into the pot to figure this out. Then we put the prior past events in Jacksonville Beach, large crowds. Some of them have been violent, like a Memorial Day and July 4th years past. And so we figured that. So we put all that together, and what it spit out was basically our planning process was what we had out there on the street for a worst case. I don't know how a lot of people didn't see a lot of those behind the scenes, but that was a lot of things to figure out with the 68 person police department. We had to get some help. We had to do our due diligence, and I'll take criticism anytime for being over prepared or what we may have done. In the end, we had a couple thousand visitors. They were well behaved, very polite. I received not one single complaint on any officer from any of the 200 that had come in to help us. No one complained on any of our officers. There was an omnipresent, safe feel. We communicated with the businesses, the citizens, other law enforcement agencies. There was a unity of message between the three beach police departments. Me, along with my elected officials and my city manager, developed action plans, contingencies, a commander's intent document that said what would be tolerated and what would not be tolerated. So it was just, I agree with my other two previous speakers. I'm really, really proud of what we all pulled off for Orange Crush. Some of you did get behind the scenes. Our mayor saw behind the scenes, and she commented to me she had no idea that much went into an event like this. So very successful, very challenging, and we're good at handling special events, the beaches and my department specifically, with a smaller number of officers than any other police department, they would handle it. We handle with 68 officers like July 4th weekend, but some departments would take 200 or 300 people to handle. So we're very proud of that. So very successful, very challenging, but I believe we have a process in place, and we have for a long time, whether it be a hurricane or a large special event, to effectively deal with this, not just as a city, but as a beaches community with the other two chiefs. Moving on to the top three priorities, very easy to discuss because it's in my work plan, which is my personal goals, and also our department goals and our city goals are all interrelated. Mike Staffopoulos, our city manager, has ensured that we have consistency in our goals and objectives, both city, department, and personally. So it's very easy. Number one is guns, gangs, and drugs. Since I took over as chief of police 2 years ago, that has been my priority: guns, gangs, and drugs. And I'll circle back around to that in a minute too. The second is traffic enforcement. The third is statistically, we are safe. So I want this to be a safe community, a safe city, but there's also an important component. You have to feel safe. If statistically we are safe, but if the citizens don't feel safe, all this is for nothing. So we also have to make them safe, but we want them to feel safe, and there's ways to do that. So let me go back to my first goal. When I first came in, I put the priority of guns, gangs, and drugs. Just a quick insight, per the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, the city of Jacksonville Beach seizes and takes more guns off people than any jurisdiction in Northeast Florida besides the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office. That includes Clay County, that includes St. Johns County, that includes the municipalities. So much so, they invited two of my detectives to be on an ATF task force part-time to assist with these gun crimes and the seizure of guns. So then when you look at the gang activity in Jacksonville, we have had a little. Some of our prior violent incidents have been with gang members from Jacksonville. And then the drug issue, illegal narcotics, it's not a victimless crime, which you hear some people say. It is a crime that affects burglary, robbery, rape. It affects every other index crime. So guns, gangs, and drugs are my priority. I don't want to look back 10 years from now and think about the good old days when we just had some crowds and some parking issues and say those really were the good old days. I want to make sure a lot of that stuff doesn't come across the bridge. I want to remind everybody that Duval County is the homicide per capita murder capital of Florida. Second, traffic. Our city council has said it was important to them that we have safe commutes, safe crosswalks. The kids are safe going to school, safe bicycle riding, like Commander Key said. So that's part of our omnipresent field. Not only do we conduct traffic enforcement, but 90 to 95% of the 1,500 to 1,700 people we arrest every year are not from Jacksonville Beach. They're from Jacksonville or out of town, and they all have to get here with a vehicle. So we think our traffic enforcement goes right into guns, gangs, and drugs. Also, feeling safe, but if you are safe, we highlight both of those. We do that through Citizens Police Academy. Our 46th class is starting in August, 2 a year for the last 23 years. to our communications with our public, to our meeting with our business owners, to meetings like this, through the traffic efforts, to the guns, gangs, and drugs, through being omnipresent. We want you to feel safe and be safe, and we keep emphasizing that message. What impact has the problems around the country had on us? Not a whole lot. If anything, our citizens have become more protective of us and defensive of us, defending us. We are nationally accredited out of 15,000 agencies in the country. We're one of only 600 that are nationally accredited, and we're one of only 10% of that 600 that are gold standard agencies. We're the top 10% of those 600 agencies. So about 60 other agencies meet our standards, or we meet their standards. Really haven't had an effect on us. We, through Gualillo, our accreditation body, we have had some good ideas come in about what to change, some good, some bad, but we've been able to deal with those ideas to show our policies, our model policies, and that we are nationally accredited. What can the citizens do to support us? You know, very near and dear to my heart, over COVID and this last year, 18 months, have been very difficult for my staff. They see what's going on around this country. It's been very difficult for them, but it's not the grandiose acts all of y'all have done. It's the small things every day, all the thank yous, all the cards, all the we support you, all the thank you for your service. For a while there, none of my officers could even go out their lunch during the day. They were starting to feel weird because they couldn't buy a lunch. Everybody was buying them lunch anonymously. So there's nothing really this community can do, because y'all are fantastic. I'm probably the luckiest or the most fortunate chief in the country to have all supportive elected officials, a supportive city manager, a very supportive citizen base, and as far as I feel, the best staff in the country. So keep it up. The small acts of just saying thank you go a long way. And that's all I have. I'll pass it back to Maria, and we can start the Q&A.
Well, thank you, Chief Smith, and thank you, Chief Gualillo and Commander Key, or Marshal Key. I guess I'll start calling you that from now on. If you guys could bring your video back up and unmute. All right, and unmute. Thank you. Thank you again, Chief Smith, if you'll unmute as well. So thank you again. It's always so informative and enlightening to hear from our leaders in blue. I want to say men and women in blue, because I know you represent both, and protecting our citizens, protecting our communities. And I love the saying, you know, we have 3 beaches, but we're one community for sure. Going back to Orange Crush, and thank you, Chief Smith, for your in-depth explanation about all that went on, you know, behind the scenes. Is there anticipation as far as this occurring next year? Is there any way for you guys to gauge whether that's going to, you know, whether we're going to feel that impact next year?
I'll pass it on to the other 2 first. Okay.
On the Orange Crush gathering, do you guys have any ideas as to whether that we may be the landing area for that again, or no?
That's going to be promoter driven. It depends on if the promoter of this event believes he's going to have a great venue here. I know we've heard some rumblings that they have found a home here in Jacksonville. So we'll see what happens. We saw more events occur in Duval County than we expected. Spread out some of the crowds, which was a good thing for us. We were concerned initially that it was going to be a beach-centric event.
Mm-hmm.
That didn't happen. Luckily, we have to think about 5,000 or 10,000 people in the beaches area. It's a difficult task to manage that many people and provide for public safety and traffic and everything else. So it's nice they spread out. I hope that if the promoter comes back next year or wants to, he'll be a little more responsive to communication with the beaches agencies, Jack's Beach in particular, and the city of Jacksonville. I think that will play a big part in the success of that event if it goes on. So I think I'll just leave it with that.
So can you talk, can either of you, three of you, speak to the economic impact that had? I think Mayor Hoffman had mentioned it in an article, in an interview, but I don't recall if there were any specific dollar amounts as far as that goes, because I presume, I don't know, maybe the promoter, had some contribution to that economic impact as far as public safety and all of those costs and expenses.
I know the impact it had on my agency. We're about $53,000 in counting with equipment and overtime. As far as the impact in the community, I can't really answer to that. It didn't look, and I'm hearing hundreds of thousands of dollars from JSO and JFRD, and I kind of believe that based on the effort. And I don't know whether we got an impact out of it or not. And what that doesn't count is all the soft hours, all the stuff that doesn't cost. How much does all this cost? The meetings and the phone calls and the briefings. If you consider hard costs and soft costs, it probably cost us county $1 million, and that's just a wild guess. But it was a huge undertaking. He does say he found a home, but we're reminding him that a festival, we already have a festival that's with alcohol in June, and per our city ordinance, you can only have one festival per month. So that one's already taken. Also in our city ordinance, you cannot charge for the band shell admittance. That's whether it be a VIP ticket for $1,000 in advance or there at a gate. So he can't do that. So unless he wants to come to public land and say, here's a free concert and that's it, I don't see where it's going to fit, but we're still evaluating that now. It's in a very preliminary stage. Okay.
Commander Key, I'm not sure if you can really speak to this, but I'm just curious because I know that they're the Kmart development, they're starting, I think, the raising the building, the old Kmart building and stuff. Do you guys have any anticipated impact as far as public safety and the impact on just the police force itself with that kind of development coming into Neptune Beach?
Yeah, without having an exact picture of the footprint of the amount of residents that will be added to our footprint, if you will, of the downtown area, and I can't really educatively comment on that. I will add one quick comment about Orange Crush, and there's a lot of negativity around it, and I'll add that one of the positive things that our agency saw, and I know the other ones did, and it's never something that we want to happen, but exercising the process is a kind of a coined term to really just describe that our organization's cohesion with other organizations is paramount. I mean, it's really important that we work not only with the beaches, but the fire department, but with federal agencies, with intelligence sharing, all these different things that are happening in the background. So I'll say that is, if you want to frame it in the context of it's positive, that's a positive thing that came out of a relatively overall negative viewed event. That was a very positive thing, that cohesion and cooperation of exercising that process. But now to your first question, I'm sorry, I would direct you to probably to the city manager as far as what the actual footprint of the impact of residents, and then we could probably discuss that at a later time with knowing those numbers and how that would then affect our organization. I can obviously tell you that any increase in population is going to increase the variables that the police department has to handle.
Yeah, absolutely. And so just to wrap up Orange Crush, so the dollars that were spent, soft and hard, I mean, those are all, I mean, that I'm assuming was not in any of your budgets to cover, correct?
No, it's
No,
not.
it was, I can tell you it was not in mine.
Yeah. So as far as that impact, I mean, how is that going to kind of affect your overall budget for this fiscal year, I guess?
I'll start off with that. I receive everything that I need, and there's no question that it will be taken care of. The city council is very supportive of us, and I have no concerns I have no concerns about that cost being covered. We were able to absorb it because we are fiscally responsible, and we do save our pennies for rainy days. But even if that wouldn't be covered and I couldn't absorb it, I knew I would have a supportive council and a supportive city manager, no doubt.
And so going forward, we will all three beach communities kind of try and work that potential cost into your budget for next fiscal year.
Yeah, I can comment on Neptune Beach's behalf. We fortunately, just like Jack's Beach and Chief Smith had said, we're conservative and try to be as best of a steward for our budget as possible. I spent a lot of time on it myself on the administrative side, and with the same thing, we absorbed the costs for the overtime and all of the personnel hours. However, going forward, we absolutely have that on the table because they're unknown, and there's no doubt that planned events, if this event was planned, you could then have a more fiscally responsible approach to it.
Sure.
Unplanned, you have to just prepare for the worst and hope for the best. But planned, you're going to be able to plan for it a lot better, obviously.
Quick question to you, Chief Gualillo. I noticed on a message board that it said carts had to be registered. So is that just people who live in Atlantic Beach, their golf carts need to be registered with where, City Hall or the police department? I wasn't quite sure about that message.
Yeah, so that message we borrowed from Neptune Beach. Thanks, Commander Key. I appreciate that idea. We stole it from you guys. However, that registration comment meant that if you were going to drive a golf cart or cart on a public street, it has to be registered with the state of Florida, meaning it has to have a license plate.
Okay.
And that's to keep it legal. That's per state statute. And that's in order to operate in I think any of our municipalities, there's no caveat that allows golf carts to operate without a license tag on there. So that's what we're trying to get across to folks. And that's part of our messaging along with Commander Key is that be responsible, be safe when you drive the carts. It's a great way to get around the beaches and enjoy our community and make a smaller impact on the environment also, but you have to be legal and safe while you do it.
Okay, great. I just wanted to have that clarification as well in case I get one of those. I want to know what I was supposed to register, but question.
Maria.
Yes.
Also, one thing, we're seeing a lot of juveniles under the age of 16 driving them too. I don't know what the parents are thinking, letting their kids go off in a golf cart with 5 other kids at 14 years old, thinking it's safe. If they operate on a roadway, they have to be a licensed driver. Please don't let your underage children operate golf carts. I agree with the other two. If something bad's going to happen, it's just a matter of time.
Thank you. And that addresses a question that was just raised about that as far as underage driving, because that's considered a street legal vehicle, just like a car, correct? You need to be licensed, properly licensed. Okay, so we are at 7:59. I always like to try and finish on time. So thank you all for joining us again. It's always informative. I cannot stress again, our viewers out there, if you've not attended the Citizens Police Academy, either in Atlantic Beach or Jack's Beach, please sign up. And even if you live in Neptune Beach, you can choose either one. So it's the best way to really see the other side and to truly walk in the shoes of our men and women in blue and see what they do every single day to keep us safe. Thank you all for joining us. We look forward to continue to working with you and being good stewards. So we appreciate it. Hopefully you'll have a quiet summer, and we will be with you next in August. And I do want to just give one more shout out. Let's see if I have this. No, I don't. Yeah, please stay tuned to our August meeting. It is talking about guns and gun violence and touches on a lot of what our speakers talked about today. You know, we'll have some prominent speakers to share their views on this. And also, please take a second to fill out our survey at the end of this meeting. Again, you can watch the recorded meeting on our YouTube channel, follow us on Facebook, and of course, always on our website. Gentlemen, thank you again. We really appreciate you coming on, and we'll be back next month.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Maria.
Thank you.